Hey guys, it's Mel. Welcome to my channel. So for today's video I am going to do the book genre tag. I was tagged to do this by Chloe from Chloe Reads Books. Chloe, I apologise, it's taken me probably about 3 months to get around to doing this tag, mostly because I've had other tags come up since then that I thought were a little bit more timely, but also because I've been trying to space out my different types of videos so that they weren't all clustered into one batch of tags, for example. Anyway, the genre book tag was created by Harriet from Harriet Rosie. I will link both her original tag video in the description below and Chloe's channel in the description below, so you should go and check both of those out. They are very cool and I think you really like them. So this is actually the second time that I've filmed this video. The first time I filmed this video I honestly didn't really like how it all came out, so I've scrapped it and I'm filming again, so hopefully it works out better the second time around. I will say that I actually found the tag kind of tricky to do, and I think that's because genre seems to be a very fluid concept. Lots of people seem to define something like middle grade as genre, whereas other people define middle grade as category. There are lots of different genre blends that happen, so I found answering the questions quite tricky, but anyway, let's see how I go this time around. So I have got the tag information up on my phone here. So the first question is your favourite genre or genres. So my favourite genre is either fantasy or magical realism. As you would have seen from my favourite series video that I put out on Saturday, fantasy has been a genre that I have loved for a very long time and it remains my favourite genre. I just think it's really fun. I get a lot out of fantasy. Since I was about 25 I have been really enjoying magical realism as well. So if you don't know what I mean by that, for me magical realism is a book set in our world rather than your typical fantasy that is set in another world. But there are aspects of fantasy in the story. So there might be magic in the story, or there might be other creatures like fairies in the story or something like that. Something that adds a certain amount of magical and fantastical element to the story. So those are my two favourite genres. Question number 2, your least favourite genres. I find this quite a difficult question. I don't really have a genre that I particularly dislike. I definitely have genres that I don't read as much and that I don't reach for as often. So I'm going to pick one or two of those rather than saying a genre that I don't like. So yeah, I do read quite a bit of sort of the chick lit sort of books and contemporary books, but just a straight romance I'm probably not as interested in as a romance that also has other aspects to the story. So it might be a hard-hitting romance or something like that. So romance, just a straight sort of rom-com is probably my least favourite genre, although like I said, it's not that I dislike it, it's something I don't reach for as often. Particularly within that genre, the subgenre of smut, basically. I just don't really like that very much. It's not because I am particularly prudish at all. I don't care that people are describing other people having sex. I think it's partly that it just feels kind of boring to me. I mean, I like my stories to have more to them than just sex, but also I think that a lot of times they're not done very well. I think that sex is something that's really hard to write convincingly and realistically and still have it being entertaining and enjoyable. So I often just don't particularly think that much of the work, really. So yeah, that was my least favourite genre or genres. Next up is a genre that you want to try. So for this one I'm going to say horror. because I have actually never read a horror book. I've watched plenty of horror movies, but I've never actually read a horror book. So I did actually put Carrie on a TBR for, I think it was the second challenge for the Triwizard Tournament readathon that happened last year, but I just didn't get around to reading that book at the time, and it was not mine. I had to take it back to the library, so I haven't yet picked it up again. I don't own any horror, so same thing, I haven't picked it up, and I don't particularly want to buy any horror because I don't know whether I like it, so I don't want to spend money on something if I don't know if I like it. So I'm basically waiting for the library to open up again before I start getting into horror effectively. So that was the question number 3. Question number 4, a genre you don't want to try. I don't know if I have an answer to this question. There isn't really any genre that I don't want to try. I mean, I guess there are plenty of books that I don't particularly want to try, but a whole entire genre, I can't say that there's a one entire genre that I won't try. So yeah, I'm not really answering that question. Sorry, I just don't think that I have an answer. Question 5 is a lot easier to answer, and that is a genre that you're not sure about. So, for this one, I'm going to say science fiction, because although there are some science fictions that I really, really love, as a whole, it's not a genre that I am super familiar with, so I can't say that I like the genre specifically, although there are series and books that fit into that genre that I really like. Specifically though, within the genre of science fiction, the genre of space opera, it just really doesn't appeal to me. I'm sure it probably would be quite funny if I gave it a go, but yeah, it's just really doesn't appeal to me at all really, but who knows, maybe I will find one that I will enjoy. Okay, so next up is a genre blend that you love. Well, like I said, I really like a hard-hitting contemporary. Contemporary is one of those categories or genres that's really difficult to define, because anything that is sort of takes place in our world that is written within a modern day can be classified as contemporary. So you could have a thriller or a mystery or a romance or something else entirely and still have it classify as contemporary. So for me, probably one of my favourite contemporary genre blends would be contemporary with a domestic drama, domestic thriller. So something like a Leanne Moriarty book. I haven't read Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng yet, but I'm actually really, really intrigued to read that one, and I think that would probably classify as a contemporary domestic thriller. So I think that would be really cool, and that's the sort of style that I really like. Another one that I really like is historical fiction that is blended with something else, specifically a mystery. So you would have seen, again, in my favourite series video that I put up on Saturday, Mary Russell series by L'Oreal King is one of my favourite series, and that is a historical fiction mystery. So something like that I absolutely love. I also really like a historical romance, again, if it's done well. Romance is one of those things like Smut that I think often isn't done super well, so I tend not to like it as much, but when I find something that I think is really great, then I love it. So and historical romance, for me personally, what I've read so far often seems to mesh well, so I like that. And as I said, one of my favourite genres is magical realism, so I like the blend of the sort of more contemporary story with elements of the fantasy in the story as well. Okay, so a genre-defying book. Again, I'm not really sure how to answer this question. I've just told you a bunch of different genre blends that I really like. I don't really know if that's maybe what is intended here as a genre-defying book, or if we're talking about a book that is in a specific genre and turns all of those genres on their head. So if that is what is intended, that it's technically a specific genre, but it kind of turns a lot of the tropes that you would find in that genre around on its head and gives you an entirely different perspective of that genre, then I'm going to say Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. This is another series that I talked about in my top 10 favourite series as well. And the reason I'm saying that here is that I don't necessarily think it's genre defying in the sense that you read it and think, oh god, this isn't a fantasy. There's a lot of elements that are definitely fantastical, but he uses all of those elements and all of those tropes to discuss our societal structure, our belief structure, and just humanity in general, and our foibles and our weirdness and all of that sort of stuff. And so I think that, yeah, for me that isn't, well, I don't know if it's necessarily genre defying, but I definitely think that that's a very interesting way of doing that, and that he uses the vehicle of fantasy to have a conversation that maybe you couldn't have within a contemporary, because the contemporary would just be the thing that was happening. Whereas in the fantasy element, because it's happening to dwarves and gnomes and wizards and vampires, then it brings it to the forefront as something absurd because of the absurdity of what's happening, if that makes any sense. Yeah, so anyway, that's my answer for that one. So guys, that was the end of the tag. Not a huge amount of questions in that tag. It was quite fun to do. So again, thank you very much, Chloe. I am going to tag 3 people to do this tag, but before I say who those specific people are, I'm not 100% sure who has and who hasn't done the tag. So those 3 people, if you have done the tag, feel free to ignore my tag. But anyone else who hasn't done the tag, who's watching this video and wants to do the tag, go ahead and do the tag. Consider this as a tag for you, and please comment below and give me the links for your video, or if it's an Instagram post or Twitter or whatever it might be, so I can go and check it out. So those 3 people that I'm going to specifically tag are Lana from Lana Francis, Kat from Brews and Reviews, and April from 12 Months of April. There you go, guys. I hope you enjoy those tags. Anyway, yeah, so comment below and let me know what you thought of my answers, what you would have said differently. If you are doing a tag video and you're looking for someone to tag, please go ahead and tag me. I do love being tagged and I love doing the tags. I just take a little while to get around to them. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.